Yeah, the second coming of Babel. What this story is
All
about,
right.
it's a Christian author. Insane Machine, Large Hadron Collider, which is the LHC in Geneva or outside Geneva, is the new Tower of Babel that will will destroy us all. So here we go, man. This is gonna be a good one, guys.
Okay,
Again,
stop the video.
all right. I knew you were gonna say that. I fucking knew it.
I already have a problem with it.
I knew you were gonna say that. Hold on, I gotta fix it here. There we go. Here we go.
What if I told you there was an ancient mystery, an ancient story once again being replayed in modern times? We are all familiar with the story of the Tower of Babel, a story of a pagan world coming together as a single unit, an entire society trying to achieve equality with God. And what was their method? To literally build a tower that would ascend into heaven, that would ascend into the realm of celestial beings. The craziest thought is that the very thing they were trying to do would have been achieved if God hadn't intervened. And good thing he did. God destroyed the tower and cast confusion into the people.
Let me know if you guys want me to
What a
stop.
crazy thing to say, that they would have achieved their goal. But I didn't say it. God did. In Genesis chapter 11, it says this: Then they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the earth. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. And
Okay,
the Lord
pause it.
said,
All right, guys.
Okay, first of all, the Lord had to come down to see it. Like,
When
okay,
he know?
and second of all, why would they be scattered if they didn't build a giant tower? Like, that, it just seems like he's like quoting shit as if, oh, now it makes sense. Oh, now it makes total sense. What God had to come down because he knows everything and sees everything, because so he came down and he was like, oh, I don't think I like this tower they're doing very much. So, but bam, take that, bitches. Like that's basically this story put into terms that a 4-year-old can understand in today's day and age.
Bob?
Well, it's not even that different from what it actually says. And it's amazing to me how anybody can, especially anybody that says they take the Bible literally, can avoid seeing that this story is polytheistic. God is saying, I didn't anticipate this. There's nothing they're not going to be able to do if we keep letting them go on. So let's make it impossible for them to communicate, so it's divide and conquer. Well, who's he saying that to? Other gods. And what kind of God is it? I mean, Thomas Aquinas isn't going to be around for thousands of years. This is a primitive notion of gods that could be threatened by human beings. Plus the notion that language differences came about this way. It's just obviously false if you know anything about how language has evolved. And there are fundamentalists that have language schools and all that for missionaries. They know good and well what language is like. This is just from ancient ignorance. And the idea that they're going to be scattered if they don't make a name for themselves, it doesn't seem to make any sense. And I get the impression that the storyteller is just anticipating the punchline. Here's a
it's
story
coming.
to explain how the world was populated. And so they're trying to head that off for who knows what reason. And God gives them the very thing they feared. But it has some logic as a myth, but what can this possibly, what can you think this means if you're a Christian with modern categories and yet you think this really happened? It's just stunning.
I totally agree there.
You
No
know,
doubt.
and
So,
I think the first time you can tell that this guy has got a shit argument is when he starts quoting Genesis,
yeah, I know.
because
Yeah, no
that
shit.
is the of all the Bible to fucking quote the shit
Genesis,
which
yeah.
is from Genesis, which would have obviously like no eyewitnesses or anything like that, and just all obviously made up shit.
That many Christians really don't adhere to Old Testament, but hey, when it's
Oh, it's
Permissible.
when they need a fucking quote,
When it's permissible,
they'll
they'll
go
quote
straight
it,
to
yeah.
it.
But actually,
Exactly.
one thing that
Right.
both TJ and Bob touched on. First of all, when TJ's talking about the idea of God coming down, that's always really interesting, especially when you think of how people didn't know shit about the universe or the earth or
Right,
anything like
yeah.
that back in these days. But also, like what I wanted to ask you, Bob, is because I know what was it? The story of Noah's flood was based off of older legends. I'm going to forget the name.
Oh,
Yeah, the Gilgamesh
Yes,
epic, the
Gilgamesh.
Atrahasis epic, stuff like
he
that.
knows
Yeah,
all
is
this stuff.
Babel? Does it have any of those
References?
similar traces?
Well,
Is there
there
something
is
similar to that?
There's a similar Greek myth that makes explicit what this guy infers reasonably from the Babel story, that the giants were piling mountains on top of one another to assault Olympus, and Zeus put an end to it. So it could be that that's the point of the tower that reaches to heaven, and it would be a variation on that maybe. But I don't think it has anything to do with the flood, because this story doesn't seem to presuppose there was a flood. The flood story leads to the population of the world by Noah's sons and their families spreading out, whereas this is an alternate explanation. There's several stories in Genesis that presuppose no flood. It's really kind of a patchwork quilt of all kinds of old stories.
Is that like the Gnostic Gospels claim that or no?
Yeah, they have some of that
Yeah.
stuff too, and I think there are older pre-biblical elements in
Yeah.
some of that. And there's really weird, interesting stuff where Noah's wife, Norea, destroys the ark with a jet of fire from her mouth, and he has
Yeah.
to rebuild it and so on. And they tie it into the Cain and Abel thing. They're two different races of humans, one more enlightened, the other less. It's a whole different mythology, but some of it does sort of give us plugs for the holes left in these versions of the stories.
Dude,
Very
that sounds super interesting,
Yeah.
and it makes me regret because the last time I went, I drop stuff off at Goodwill all the time, and while I'm there, I go inside and I check out their books because they get new books all the time. So I had like an arm full of freaking books, and I ran across the Dead Sea Scrolls for $1.99.
Oh yes, that's awesome.
and
man.
I swear to God, if I had any more room under my arm, I would have picked it up. But chances are it'll still be there because I doubt too many people are going to Goodwill to pick up the Dead Sea Scrolls.
No, definitely not.
And I'm not talking about like a translation. I mean the original copy.
Oh yeah, the very originals. Yeah, they were pulled
Yeah,
up
the
in
originals,
movies
yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd be a millionaire by now. But
Well,
yeah,
there is stuff in the scrolls that bears on the Noah story.
Yeah.
For one, there's the Book of the Giants, which is part of the Book of Enoch, and it has to do with the Nephilim and all that stuff, who corrupted the earth and caused the flood, just like in the Mel Gibson movie Noah, which is great.
This is part of the Nag Hammadi Gospels they found, right?
Well, that was different. That was about a year before. I think it was.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was 1945 in Egypt with the Nag Hammadi Library,
Correct,
and
yeah.
maybe 47 or 48 in
Correct, yeah.
Jordan with the Dead Sea Scrolls. But both of them are really treasuries of these different sectarian documents that have alternate versions of the Genesis myths, and they're really fascinating.
They are definitely. And
I wanted to give a quick voice to Dark Matter, who in the comments said the human race is so diverse that we can figure out how to create the Large Hadron Collider and think that it will piss off a magic Skyman.
well, very well said.
Yeah,
But,
what is the guy's gripe? How is the collider analogous to
we're coming
the
up
Tower
with
of
that. I'm like, we still have to finish the video.
Dude,
We
oh
still
no,
have-
no, I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
think we
that's
can finish
No,
this
we're
shit.
finishing it.
I
we're
want to
definitely
hear
finishing
this.
it.
I want to hear how it's going to like.
Oh,
end
we're definitely
this.
finishing it. So that
Oh,
being
it's
said,
not, it's a
let's-
9-minute video, bro.
we're already through like 3 minutes. so.
Is this topic 5 or what?
This is topic 5. We still have one more left.
All right.
We got
All right,
plenty
good.
enough time. We're good. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. We're good on this.
All right.
So here we go, guys. Let's get on with this D-bag. Here we go.
If as one people speaking the same
And if you want me to pause, please scream it out.
language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other. The Lord, Jehovah, the God of the universe, said nothing would be impossible for them. This indicates that the very thing they had set out to do, to build a tower into heaven, would have been achieved. How? This seems impossible. How would a people group build a tower that would reach to the outer realms of the universe, thousands of light years away, into a place that we call heaven? This is ridiculous and impossible. Therefore, I would suggest another means of extending their tower into heaven. You see, many Christian intellects,
All right,
can we pause real quick?
in theology, and
He,
even
he just said heaven was thousands of light years into space.
And that would indeed be
Yeah,
ridiculous. They're just talking about the ancient equivalent of a, quote, skyscraper, right?
yeah.
They don't mean you would actually bridge the span between the earth and the solid dome of the firmament. He's reading in there, as if the Bible writers knew it, the actual extent of the universe, all these thousands of light years. Oh, brother.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty ridiculous. All right, let's
Oh,
move
yeah.
on.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
move on here. Here we go. This part, it's coming up here in another couple minutes.
molecular and particle physics would suggest that there are gateways, or for you sci-fi junkies, portals,
Here we go.
just beyond the naked eye, placed at strategic locations around the world in which the celestial realm would enter and leave from. Take another portion of scripture, for example. In Genesis 28, Jacob was given a vision in which we today refer to as Jacob's ladder. In this vision, he saw a stairway or ladder resting on earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it.
Okay,
There above it.
So I think Bob
Dude,
wants to talk
wait.
about that.
I find this way more entertaining. This version of Christianity,
Oh, yeah, it's
way
funny.
more entertaining than like the Illuminati version.
Well, he's trying to justify. He's trying to justify the biblical scripture. He's trying to compare it to the LHC, Large Hadron Collider, which we will find out here soon. But what do you guys say about that, Bob? Anything on that part yet?
He sounds more and more like Zechariah Sitchin or one of these other guys that tries to read flying saucers into Genesis. It's just seems ridiculous, like they're wormholes, he's saying. That is, I suppose, theoretically possible from what I know, but he might as well be writing science fiction. It's not in the Bible. How is this anything to worry about?
No, exactly. I totally agree. So, all right, guys, let's get back to this because he makes his point right here.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a large hard on watching this video. I'm hoping maybe it might collider with this guy's. Jesus, God,
Enough.
he looks.
He's a big fella.
Can we say something about the way he looks?
No.
We're not allowed to.
No, we're not
No?
allowed to. We're
All
not
right.
allowed to
All right.
pull any kind of ad hominem attacks here. So.
It's dumb.
All right, here we go.
But
He
stood
just
the
looked
Lord,
dumb,
and he
that's how
said,
he looks.
I am the Lord, the God of your father, Abraham, and the God of Isaac. How was this possible? How was Jacob able to see heaven and earth and a stairway extending to both at the same moment? Let me give you another example. Whenever you're in a time of need and you pray, Lord, send down your angels, let them protect me. Where's the angel or the angels coming from? From the outer edges of the universe or wherever the spirit realm lies? If he was traveling at the speed of light, it would literally take that angel millions of years to get to you.
Here we go.
You're long gone. Once again, what a ridiculous thought. Wouldn't it make more sense if these spirit beings were simply able to pass through some sort of dimensional barrier, through a gateway, to immediately be able to assist you?
Ah, here it comes.
Is that what Jacob was seeing?
the gateway?
Was he seeing one of the gateways into heaven in which angels were ascending and descending? The same type of gateway the pagans in the story of the Tower of Babel were trying to get to? It's interesting to note what Jacob said after his encounter there with the supernatural realm. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I wasn't even aware of it. But he was also afraid and said, what an awesome place this is. It is none other than the house of God, the very gateway to heaven. What
All right,
does
all right, all right.
this have to do
I
with
got
today?
$100 says this guy don't fit through the eye of a needle even if he's broke.
Jesus Christ, dude. Oh, gluttony, right? Oh my God.
It's
TJ,
just
too much.
funny.
Wait, what I want to ask is, Bob, what's this with this gateway to heaven and all this? And you got anything to say about this?
It's very peculiar that people think that they can make the Bible stories more believable by showing that maybe if this or that were true scientifically, this is what they were talking about. Aha, you see, it's not so stupid as you skeptics say. And yet what they're doing is to rob the story of its original miraculous character. It's like saying that on Easter morning they thought they were seeing Jesus, but it was just a Western Union messenger boy. And you see, it's not so stupid. That could have happened. Yeah, if it did, so what? You're in worse trouble. Or the Star of Bethlehem, that was a conjunction of planets in the constellation Pisces or something. So you see, it's not so silly. Yeah, but it's also not miraculous. It doesn't prove anything anymore. Not that the story itself would, but they don't seem to realize they're destroying what they're trying to defend, and this would be a classic case of it. It'd be like saying, oh, you mean it was just a wormhole or something? I thought it was a miracle. Well, guess not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But let's get on to this, and he's going to talk about the God particle here soon. So we're running.
I swear to God, I would pay good money to read the scientific explanation of Genesis.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like these, fundamentalists out there, these people like this guy here. They just try to steal the scientific evidence and try to make it fit their own worldview, like their biblical worldview. It's so entertaining. So let's get back to this.
I love I want the blueprints for this Tower of Babel, because obviously they were fucking super geniuses, because we can't build anything like that now.
No, really.
That they could build that back then. Like the best they could do, back in the day was like putting a bunch of blocks up in pyramids, which is an incredible feat. Yeah. But it's not like the fucking Tower of fucking Babel.
I know, really, right. All right, there's a couple more minutes left in this, but he makes his statement here at the end. It's funny shit.
The here and the
conclusion.
Someone once said, history has a funny way of repeating itself. Another man once said, the one thing we can learn from history is that we don't learn from history. And from studying history, you will quickly see that God, He works in cycles. He works in patterns.
Here it comes.
If you want to get on what God is doing, then you've got to find out how He operates. And Hebrew tells us that Jesus, God, He is the same yesterday, today, and forever.
And here it comes.
So, what if I told you again?
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
The ancient story of the Tower of Babel is being repeated.
Oh.
Isn't it interesting that people from all around the world have once again come together to build the largest machine that man has ever constructed? They say it's for the purpose of discovering the God particle, this mystery particle that essentially holds the entire universe together, and if found would explain our very existence.
All right,
I
pause
think
it.
It's pretty interesting
I take it all back. He's convinced me. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, see?
Now that he's given me that totally logical explanation for all the bullshit that he led up to it with, I'm totally convinced of the bullshit.
Well, the funny thing he states here, and I'll bring it out, is like he thinks the God particle is about God. It really is. It's not, because there was a book published back in 1993, which was called The God Particle, to try to explain this hard-to-find boson, which is the Higgs boson.
The Higgs, yeah.
So what happened is that I guess you can say the publisher, he didn't want to be called the goddamn particle, as in goddamn, it's hard to find. We haven't found it yet, but we have good a hypothesis on this. So that's what it boiled down to.
It's a good thing he didn't, because the goddamn podcast would have probably put some copyright shit on that.
Exactly.
Goddamn particle, that's way too close to goddamn podcast. Me and Drew will see you in court.
So that's the history behind it, is because this book came out in 1993 and the publisher didn't want to publish it as the goddamn particle, as in it's hard to find. They said, you know what would sell books? Let's name it the God particle. And you know what? Rightfully so, it did. It sold a lot of books. So.
Well, you remember when they finally ended up finding, I'm sorry, Paul, when they finally ended up finding the Higgs, that was like the thing that God particle found it, Jesus. You know, like that. That
Yeah,
sort of.
like they were trying to
Yeah.
debunk Jesus or God. You know what I mean? It's like,
Do you
come on,
guys
really?
remember Yoke Up and Laminin way back in YouTube history? Like Yoke Up was this bald preacher trucker guy with like an ex-lesbian wife, and they made YouTube videos, and he was like, oh, I got some miracle shit for you now. And he's like the laminin or whatever, and it's like somebody drew basically a diagram or got maybe a perfect picture from the right angle to make this shit look like a cross. Some like microscopic picture. I don't even remember what the fuck it was.
I don't
Some
know what you're talking about.
protein or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, you look
But
pretty.
Oh, that.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And freaking he like, you know, he's like, bam, there it is, the cross. Even when you look
Oh,
through
yeah,
a
yeah, I remember that.
microscope,
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus is there.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
like, oh, how embarrassing. Like, go drive a truck. Please don't kill anyone on the
Yeah.
road, you moron.
Now I recognize it, yeah, because I thought you said lanolin for a second, and all I could think about is, what? What is this bullshit, Alabama? I said lanolin, motherfucker. Do you fucking read?
But no, I'm not going to play the rest of that. I'm like, we can talk about what he said here at the end. But comparing the LHC to the Tower of Babel, I'm like, it's just, I'm like, you're talking different points in history here. You know, I mean, like, what's their next attempt? You know, to hinder advancements in science. You know what I mean? That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to hinder the advancement of science, and he's trying to promote scientific findings to fit his ancient bronze mythology. It's just like ridiculous. It's insanity here. But you know what? Christians will suck this up. They will suck it up as in, wow, this guy's speaking the truth. Wow. Well, let's try to stop the Large Hadron Collider because we don't want to destroy Earth. Even though, you know, second coming to Christ, we're all for that. But yeah, Large
Well,
Hadron Collider. Yeah, let's try to stop that shit. You know.
To
Well,
be fair,
how-
go ahead, Rob.
Did he think the collider would create a black hole to suck everything into, like
that's
in
what
the
he's stating,
Fantastic
yeah.
Four movie I saw yesterday?
Well, that's what I was going to.
Oh, great. Now we're going to have to put spoiler alerts in the
Jeez.
title of this fucking
Great.
video.
damn it.
Unbelievable. Spoiler
Thanks,
alert.
Bob. But no, I think he's trying to say that we're trying to create a gateway like they were
Correct,
with
yeah.
the ladder
Yep.
and with the Tower of Babel. And that when we do that with the LHC, God's gonna destroy us again. It's like a really weird thing. I guess my microphone was fucked up, so that's why I couldn't talk. And I was gonna say to what Bob was saying before is he's just storytelling. He's filling in the blanks. Like, oh, this makes sense because I'm trying to tell you this narrative and see how I can tie it into these stories. And then you're like, oh yeah, if you don't really think about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, this is what happens when you, you know, have science. You know, science in this field of physics, they're expanding so much, and they're knowing on how the universe was created, and what they're doing is basically, I hate to say this, is closing the God of the gaps arguments to a certain point. And, you know, it's fundies like this that are going to steal the scientific evidence and promote it as in, this proves God. This is what it boils down to. God of the gap arguments, they're going to close. These loopholes are going to be closed. They're going to be closed. And eventually, hopefully, you know, well before, you know, well after we're dead, you know, God's going to be irrelevant in society. So, in my
But I got to say, that idea that Bob had brought up, this once you start taking like the supernatural elements out of it and stuff like that, and we're left with wormholes and pretty much science fiction, it's just like, what the hell's the point?
Well, like they already say that heaven must be another dimension, whatever that would mean, because it's obvious it's not literally up there. And so they're already encroaching on that kind of thing to where if this is the real meaning of it, then there's no transcendence to it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the people that these weird sectarians that say the virgin birth story is true literally because Mary was artificially inseminated by aliens who aren't that much different from angels. They come from the sky. And Jesus healed people like Dr. McCoy did in Star Trek 4 with pills that'll make you grow a new kidney and all that stuff because he was in touch with aliens. And he really did get resurrected from the dead, just like Klaatu in The Day the Earth Stood Still. And he did ascend because, you know, beam me up, Jehovah. And they say, you see, that would make sense. Well, it kind of would, but if so, you've really yanked the rug out from under your own religion.
Yeah,
You know,
and-
I
Yeah.
think personally that the heavens, remember that thing we were talking about earlier where God is just like a term? I think heavens has a much better shot in that argument as being just a term. When God created the heavens and the earth, you know,
Yeah,
and that could be, you know, just obviously where we are and everything else. I mean, they could look up in the sky and see stars. They could see the moon. They could tell shit was round way back then. It wasn't like I actually am not a huge supporter. Like, there are quotes in the Bible that, you know, say it's like on the pillars or the circle of the earth or whatever. But I mean, shit, you could see the moon back then. It wasn't like rocket science just to look up at the fucking moon and see that that's round. This is probably round too. You know, but you don't need to go to those depths to prove this is bullshit. You don't even need to go to like the earth is flat level to prove all, or to even make the argument against it. It's embarrassing to watch people like over and over just rely on the science that they like to hate on, like John Hagee. Sitting up there using a microphone, filming the entire thing, using all kinds of scientific advancements to shit on teaching evolution.
But the thing is that's interesting about that is whether there are new religions in the future or not, even they could take Christianity in that route. Like, just like Bob was saying, you know, Jesus was really the son of like a space alien or some shit. I mean, that's just, once we start getting rid of this whole idea of like the supernatural aspects of everything, they'll start coming up with another way to say like, oh, no, it's totally in the natural. It's just, they didn't know about aliens.
Now the butterfly has
then.
flapped its wings, Drew. The butterfly has flapped its wings because now I believe Jesus was the son of a alien or some shit. So I'm going to start that religion that ends up changing Christianity.
Well, like,
there are such religions already. They're UFO.
No, I refuse to believe it.
Scientology? You're talking about like Scientology and things like that?
Yeah, and
Raelian.
Various Society, the
Various
Raelians.
societies,
By the way, with the reference to the hair, I couldn't see that video, but apparently there's somebody with weird-looking hair.